So this is our developer machine where we actually develop the code. And then these are the users, right? They cannot access your machine, but they certainly want to access it from the server. So this is your server, and this is like irrespective whether you are creating front end, back end, whatsoever, anything which is publicly accessible and your users want to access it, right? So they are accessing it from the server, they are not accessing it from your machine. One thing is what you will do, you will compile the code, then you will build it, and then you will transfer it. One way to do this is manual, right? Where someone is compiling it, building it, and checking if nothing is failing, and then they are transferring it to the server, and these folks should be able to access it from there. So this has been traditional way of doing it. Now, what is DevOps or the CICD part? What it says that as soon as developer performs its testing, they will move the code on any repositories like GitHub or Bitbucket. So how many of you knows about GitHub or Bitbucket? Okay.
Me too, sir.
Right. So a couple of you already know about it, right? GitHub is a place where you actually maintain your code so that next time when you are starting from another machine, or you are just like sharing your code with some other developers to work upon. So you pull the code from GitHub, and then after testing it on your local, you push it on the GitHub back. That is in general we do. What DevOps does, it keep listening to your GitHub, keeps scanning what is happening on the GitHub, and as soon as you do the commit, what it does, it first compiles it automatically. It first compile it, then build it, and then deploy it, right? And then deploy it during this phase, and it can deploy to multiple nodes of the servers as well. So if you look at, there can be multiple developers working on it, right? They are pushing the code. So how beneficial it is, like this is just doing this work, and this developer does not know about it, whether it is going on which server. So this is kind of an abstraction as well. In terms of someone with bad intention, they should not be able to control what is happening on the servers, right? So this DevOps was recently like quantum, and this is really helpful. Like I myself done this using Jenkins, Bamboo, GitHub, Urban Deploy. So these are some of the tools used to host your application on different servers. While it is doing this, it is also capable of doing certain additional things. What it can do, it can do the code check. So code check, how it is doing, you are telling the DevOps pipeline, very similar to the data pipeline. It is telling to the code that this is written on Java, this is written on Python, and then we have Solar as a system which checks your code and tells you what is the code quality. And some of the organizations which are maintaining a standard, they says anything below 70% of code quality should fail during the code pipeline itself. Right? Developer won't tell their manager that I have done this thing wrong, whereas this DevOps pipeline will certainly highlight that this developer has not done the code correctly and it should not go in any of the server. Do you find it useful from the management perspective? Anyone? Right? And at the same time, it can also run test cases. So what are the test cases? When you run any programming unit, so there is a very good term which is called test driven development, TDD. This is test driven development, which means before even writing your actual programming logic, you need to define the test cases first. And these test cases will be executed as part of this DevOps pipeline. So one thing, what is the code coverage? This guy will tell you. If any of the test cases fails, this pipeline will fail. So for example, these are two gatekeepers which are telling like how's the code coverage, code quality, and then if any of the test cases fails, your pipeline will be failed, which means no bad code is going into the production, right? Do you find this useful? Right? So that is where it is automating a lot of things for you. It is not only compiling, building and deploying, which any developer would do. It is also doing the code check test cases, and then you will learn. And by the way, like during this process, you are learning a lot of software engineering things as well. So right now, okay, let me ask this question to this group first. Anyone knows about Agile development? You might be hearing from seniors, you might be experiencing yourself. Yes, Shamal.
Quickly building your prototypes and then checking it again, then deploying, and then again, like it is a cycle. Like there are multiple methods of creating your product, creating, and agile development is basically continuously checking and deploying.
Right. So Agile is very much and very well marry with this DevOps world. The reason is, what are two approaches? One traditional approach is the waterfall model, again software engineering term. So in the waterfall model, what happens? Someone comes to the developer group, they give you the requirement in one go, and then they go away, right? What is my understanding of look at it, if I'm not explaining you with all these graphs and with all these level of details, if I'm just speaking about it, you may not be able to correlate. And even like I'm trying my 100%, but some of you still will be missing some of the pieces what we are discussing here, right? So that happens with any conversation, that called communication gap. Same happen when the client explains what is the requirement in the waterfall model, and this developer groups notes about it. They just create a document and send it across for their user requirement sign off. But just think about a perspective, the limitations that human may have, that they first client may not be able to express all their requirement in one go, whereas the other group, they should not be able to record that so efficiently, and that is always missed. And after 3 months, on some of the waterfall programs even goes for years, right? They are creating e-banking system, and then once they come, client says this is not what I was expecting, because they have never seen intermediary development. Another classic and very simple example, if we talk about, when you give someone an order to build your house, you say that I want 3 rooms, I want so many washrooms, this open area, right? You gave all the requirement, but if you don't check them, do you see that they will be making exactly what you're thinking about? They may be making your rooms maybe at the first floor, whereas you were thinking it should be at the ground floor only, or the vice versa, right? So that's happened with any classic example where the project is long and you cannot just simply explain in words or in document. So that is where Agile comes in picture. What Agile says, that there should be smaller sprints. Sprints is you do the work for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, review it with me whether you are building the right thing or not. So which means now consider the same situation where you are asking someone to build your home. If you are keep checking each 15 days, do you think it will be still manageable? Because the reason, if someone does something wrong during 15 days, there are chances that the rework can happen and it will be corrected immediately. So that is the benefit of using Agile. So why I explain Agile, that if someone is building the code, the test cases are failed. So Agile is actually managed through some of the tools called JIRA, where immediately when in JIRA, what you do, you create stories for each individual programming unit, right? As soon as these are assigned to developer starts working on a code, and this starts this way, like it goes to the developer starts working it goes to the DevOps pipeline, and these things are checked. As soon as everything is deployed, its status updates back on the JIRA, which means without even talking to you, your Scrum Master or your manager knows that you have successfully completed this story. Is it making sense, like how this is correlated? Because these are the tools, and as soon as you are committing on GitHub, you are telling that I am committing it against story number 101. So if it fails, your manager knows that you committed the code but it is not working properly, and he can come and ask you why. But if you commit it, your manager knows that it has passed compile, build and deploy, code check and test cases, which means he can get an updated report immediately.